Are we going to talk about it?
What?
The elephant in the room.
What elephant?
I guess not then.
You're referring to today?
Yeah, what's the deal with today?
Donald Trump says phase 2 of his Gaza peace plan is going to happen pretty soon, even as the latest Israeli strike put more pressure on an already fragile ceasefire. Authorities say that at least 5 people were killed in the strike in southern Gaza. Now, the Israeli military said it had struck a Hamas terrorist in response to a clash in the area that had wounded 5 soldiers. But Gaza Civil Defense Agency said that the strike hit near the Kuwaiti field hospital in Khan Yunis and targeted a shelter camp. The hospital also reported that 5 people, including 2 children aged 8 and 10, were killed and another 32 were injured. Reacting to latest strike, US President Donald Trump called it a problem but expressed hope that his Gaza peace plan will go forward. Asked by reporters in the Oval Office when phase 2 will commence, Trump avoided a direct answer but said that the process is going along well.
We talked about this. You're not old enough to decide about these things.
We are old enough to help out.
Yeah.
Isn't that what you tell us, Dad?
Yeah, well, help out can mean many different things.
We want to fight bad guys. I give you bad guys.
No, you don't. I'd like to speak to Edna, please.
This is Edna.
E? This is Helen.
Helen who?
Helen Parr? You know, Elastigirl.
Darling! It's been such a long time after all these
Yes, it's still there. Well, I'll finish. When are you coming to see?
Look, I'm calling
Don't
about...
make me beg, darling. I won't do it, you know.
No, I'm calling about suit, about Bob's suit. I'm calling about Bob's suit.
Come in 1 hour, darling. I insist, okay? Okay, goodbye.
The family arrives on time, for once. Miracles do happen. Now listen, darlings. You've seen the news on the Israel-Palestine conflict, yes? And of course you feel compelled to act, naturally. But spare me the objections, Especially you, Elastigirl. I know you didn't actually call about the suits. I have already designed missions for each of you. Suit up. We're leaving immediately. Jack's translation of Giggles and Babbles. For the first mission, we are all assigned to touch on the background of our hotspot, any colonizations, disputes, leaders involved, and track down leaders who have molded the fight into what it is today. First, Elastigirl states that a man named Theodore Herzl invented Zionism and the idea of a Jewish homeland being present in Palestine. After the war, the Jewish people decided they wanted independence, so they claimed it and called their land Israel. Israel withdrew from the Gaza Strip after the war broke out due to its disputes over who owns the land. What I discovered was that the Israelis as well as the Palestinians claimed the land as their own. So now, the UN created a partition plan that Israelis were happy with, but Palestinians weren't, thus blocking it from being passed. Israelis were not pleased when the UN partition plan did not pass in return, so they claimed independence as Israel and were able to expand their territory, successfully displacing hundreds of thousands of the Palestinian population that once lived on the land. 20 years later, the Six-Day War takes place. Israel starts this by offensively striking Egypt with missiles because of the disputes over water, Palestinian guerrilla attacks, and overall rising tensions in the region. By the end of the war, Israel captured Gaza, the West Bank, and Jerusalem. Dash's successful mission provided us with a crucial additional information. Basically, Israel and Palestine aren't the only ones involved in this story at all, but outside powers as well. The UN and the Soviet Union were jumping in, picking sides, essentially stirring the pot. Dash was smart enough to record some of the conversations he had during his mission so that we can hear from them ourselves. The UN stated that in 1947 it created the partition plan to divide Palestine into Arab and Jewish states. When Israel said yes and the Palestinians said no to this plan, the war started. Since then, they have approved many bills that ordered multiple peacekeepers. However, the US frequently blocks action. The United States stated that it has been funding Israel for a long time and that Israel is one of the greatest beneficiaries of aid, receiving more than $158 billion in economic and military assistance since 1946. Lastly, Violet searched for the efforts that past influential leaders have made in the conflict, with help of Mom and Dad. First, she talks to Palestinian leaders and learns more about their individual history. Yasser Arafat was the first president of Palestine. He played a significant role in the 1993 peace agreement between Palestine and Israel and, a year later, won the Nobel Peace Prize in connection with it.
Yahya Sinwar apparently was Hamas leader until last October, when the Israeli Defense Force killed him in the Gaza Strip. Lastly, Mahmoud Abbas stated that he is the current president of Palestine after the death of Arafat. While he has made efforts in the past to make peace with the current Prime Minister of Israel, Netanyahu, he is still not seen positively, as the issue of governance often arises, as there haven't been any democratic elections since he became president, questioning his overall loyalty to the Palestinian people. Then, she talks to some Israeli leaders. David Ben-Gurion was the first prime minister of Israel and one of the people who declared Israel's independence in 1948, causing the war to begin. Golda Meir was the prime minister of Israel from 1969 to 1974, the first and only woman to hold that position. She was also a supporter of the Zionist movement and was responsible for the war worsening. Netanyahu is the current prime minister of Israel. After Hamas' attack on October 7th, he ordered the Israeli Defense Forces to attack the Gaza Strip and has not stopped since. Great information.
So to follow up on what my little brother Jack said, we discovered more about the politics that were present within the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. To complete the missions, each of us were assigned a task in Israel and Palestine, specifically by spying in order to find further information about the government, leaders, treaties, and the social and political circumstances which are happening today. So as a result, we separated and headed out to either or both nations. So for example, Dash headed into Israel, Mom to the United Nations, Jack to both Israel and Palestine, and for me, I headed into Palestine. Honestly, we snuck out very easily using our superpowers and some other tactics so we wouldn't be noticed. Like, for example, my brother Dash used his super speed to enter an Israeli building. My mom snuck into a United Nations meeting by pretending to be the Prime Minister of Andorra. My little brother Jack used his shifting and teleportation superpowers to disguise as a local official from both Palestine and Israel, and also to go into both nations fast. And for me, it wasn't as special as my other family members, but I basically went to the West Bank using my camouflage superpowers to sneak into the Palestinian Authority's headquarters successfully. So, by infiltrating the Israeli government, we found that their type of government is a parliamentary democracy led by the current Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, with their most important treaties being the peace treaty of 1979 with Egypt and 1994 with Jordan. And by infiltrating the Palestinian government, we were able to gather their type of government, which is a complex system, as it involves different kinds of authorities, like the Palestinian Authority, which is considered the official governing body of Palestine, and was established by the Oslo Peace Accords. We also discovered that their leader is Mahmoud Abbas, but even if they're considered the official government of the nation, they don't have much power now, as Israel holds most power surrounding the area. We were also able to learn about Hamas, which is a Palestinian militant group that now controls the Gaza Strip, with the purpose of fighting against Israeli occupation and for Palestinian state to be established, which is currently led by Mohammed Sinwar. By infiltrating into the UN, we were able to find out how the conflict's most important treaty was the Oslo Peace Accords, which happened during the mid-90s between Palestine and Israel as they established a peace process towards the conflict through a two-state solution. And lastly, we were able to discover that their social and political issues currently lie in the Gaza Strip, which has been taken over by the Israeli military and where airstrikes, bombings, and killings have occurred. We also learned that there is an epidemic of famine and starvation due to the control Israel has taken over food and supplies being sent out to Gaza. So essentially, Israel's ongoing military actions in Gaza have proven how they are internationally responsible for the harm toward human rights and abuse of power, with almost 1.9 million Palestinians displaced and where their healthcare is also at stake.
I've been assigned to investigate how global forces have shaped the growing imbalance between Israel and Palestine. So I stretched my way across borders, ports, offices, and checkpoints to see it all for myself. I started by reviewing old immigration archives and government records, which showed how the collapse of the Soviet Union brought over 1 million Jewish immigrants to Israel, boosting its economy and expanding its tech sector just as U.S.-Israel ties were strengthening. At the same time, I searched through diplomatic reports that confirmed Palestine had lost an important political supporter and was becoming weaker on the global stage. I moved to the coast and slipped through Israel's modernized ports, Watching container ships load high-tech exports and tracking how Level 4 globalization helped Israel plug smoothly into the global trade network. Then I crossed into Palestinian areas where I witnessed trucks waiting for hours at Israeli checkpoints and saw how the lack of sovereign borders and strict movement limits kept Palestinian trade fragmented and dependent on Israeli-controlled crossings. Through industrial zones, I stretched across factory roofs, noting how cheap global labor allowed Israel to replace Palestinian workers with migrants from Asia and Eastern Europe, stabilizing Israel's workforce while deepening unemployment and poverty in the West Bank and Gaza, where instability makes major development nearly impossible. In the tech sector, I climbed communication towers and inspected the infrastructure up close. Israel's high-speed networks, well-funded labs, and investment hubs showed how Level 4 globalization pushed it into the digital elite, while Palestinians' restricted internet access limited equipment approvals, and blocked movement slowed innovation to a crawl. At crossings, I watched Palestinian producers struggle against cheap imports coming through Israeli-controlled gates. I even stepped inside aid coordination offices, where I saw how consistent U.S. military support strengthens Israel's position while Palestinian funding swings unpredictably with political moods and focuses mostly on humanitarian needs rather than long-term growth. Finally, I toured China's Belt and Road project sites, seeing many port upgrades and tech partnerships in Israeli territory, before crossing into Palestinian areas where no equivalent projects existed. Now that I've gathered all this critical data and seen the effects firsthand, Dash, sweetheart, can you help your mom out and take a quick look at how this is affecting families on the ground?
Sure, Mom. I'll zip over, check things out, and be back before you even notice I'm gone. My mission was to see how violence has changed life in both Palestine and Israel. So as soon as the sun came up, I sprinted across borders faster than anyone could even blink. My first stop was Gaza, and wow, whole neighborhoods were just gone. Schools destroyed, hospitals empty, no power, no supplies, nothing. A Palestinian told me more than 67,000 people in Gaza have died since 2023, and about 2,000 Israelis too. Hearing that hit me harder than any villain has ever hit me. Then I rushed back into the West Bank, and the danger felt way more personal. Armed settlers, Palestinian groups, and Israeli forces were clashing almost every day. I ran past burned homes, broken windows, belongings people left behind when they fled. Families told me they're scared not just of bombs, but of sudden gunfire right outside their houses. Even checkpoints looked like battlefields, with people waiting hours just to get to school or to the doctor. After that, I made my way to an Israeli military base, and honestly, my jaw dropped. There were rows of rifles, pistols, drones, armored vehicles, everything stacked and ready to go. Compared to Gaza and the West Bank, Israel's setup looked way more advanced and fully loaded. When I headed back home, all I could think about was how much people in Palestine are suffering, not just from buildings being destroyed, but from the fear, loss, and not having a strong enough government enough to protect them. I realized even with my speed, I can't outrun the damage this conflict has caused.
The family called me in for backup. I guess they needed me to cool down the situation. I'll be finding out how globalization is affecting our hotspot and how it's shaping the political, social, and economical aspects surrounding the conflict. One of the major effects is the rapid flow of information. Through global media and social networks, images and narratives from the conflict are spreading worldwide at a rapid rate. These influence public opinion, foreign policy decisions, and activism. Due to this rapid spread of information through the media, the conflict doesn't just play out in the Middle East, but it shapes global debates, protests worldwide, and international advocacy networks. Globalization allows for greater political involvement on an international level. This involvement allows things like humanitarian aid, peace negotiations, and diplomacy. Next, I'll find out how globalization affects the economy aspect of this conflict. Globalization has connected both Israel and Palestine to global markets. Israel has access to highly developed technology sectors and is deeply integrated globally and is sensitive to shifts in trade, investments, and international reputation. Palestine relies heavily on things like foreign aid and international NGOs, which are all tied to global political trends. Movements such as the boycotts, divestments, and sanctions have all emerged from global activism. These movements help pressure Israel economically through worldwide networks. Simultaneously, the spread and advancement of global technology include things like cyber tools and advanced weapons. Each of these has affected the conflicts.
Hello, everyone. I dove into the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission to uncover which particular firms are under attack for harming Palestine and their economic conditions. I quickly found out that outsourcing labors and skills has pushed many Palestinian economic activities into being completely dependent on foreign aid and firms. This means that aid money flows are controlled and watched very closely. The restrictions on Palestinian aid and banking have to go through multiple intermediaries, making everything cost more for the Palestinian government. Thus, outsourcing and foreign markets controlling finances severely weakens Palestinian economic rights. Palestinian banks often find themselves restricted from accessing capital markets, receiving aid, or growing at all. Palestine has almost zero economic independence, and its poverty and instability are reinforced with every transaction. It is impossible for them to build a stable economy when it is completely controlled by another power.
President Trump, after everything my team and I uncovered on our missions, I can clearly see the actions the United States should take to help improve the conflict between Israel and Palestine. Politically, the United States should use its strong relationship with Israel to encourage improved movement of people, goods, medical supplies, and essential equipment. This will require the State Department and U.S. military to work together on the ground. The State Department can lead talks that focus on making checkpoints run more smoothly, opening safer routes for humanitarian aid, and setting fair and clear rules for trade/moving people and supplies in and out. While U.S. military experts can help monitor security to make sure these changes are put in safely for everyone. Economically, the United States should shift more of its aid toward long-term development by investing in Palestinian infrastructure, technology, transportation systems, and job programs so their communities can build a stable and self-sustaining economy rather than depending solely on short-term humanitarian assistance. And collaboratively, the United States should partner with the European Union, the United Nations, and the regional countries like Jordan, Egypt, Qatar, and Saudi Arabia to team up on a plan that gets both sides talking, keeps humanitarian aid open and available, supports projects that improve daily quality of life and economic growth, and makes sure all the countries involved do their part. If the United States takes these political, economic, and international steps, it would help create a more balanced condition on the ground, support real economic growth, and move both sides, particularly Palestine, closer to a peaceful and more stable future. Thank you for your time and patience. We hope you enjoyed learning about our mission as the Incredibles cast.